Hey team, welcome to my last video. I'll just be talking about the last lesson that I have for our first unit, the foundations of civilization or foundations of history. And the last unit I've chosen, or the last lesson I've chosen, is world religions, and this is going to be what the final project is on. So this has the most comprehensive, final project or final assignment. And I'll be going into that, which you guys can definitely replicate and use in your class. And I also have just like a good way that or a good system for comparing religions that I learned when I was in college because I took a world religions class. So that came in really handy when I figured out we had to do this kind of content because I'm not really familiar with a lot of this stuff, but I do know how to compare religions pretty effectively and kind of break them apart into their key aspects because most religions have at least a couple things in common, despite how unique and pretty cool they are. There's a way you can kind of talk about them academically and kind of compare certain traits with them. So, just getting started, same stuff. Lesson objective first, key terms, which these are the key terms we use to compare religions, and I have a little presentation to show you the definitions for these ones. Because these might have a little bit different definitions than what you're used to. We have specific definitions for these words to help us compare these religions. Then we have an agenda where you define key terms, the teacher models a religion presentation. So I kind of show them what I want the final product to look like. I got to alter this. So I'm going to change this because before I knew we were going digital, I was going to have them do it in groups, but now I'm going to have them do it individually. So I got to just say, choose your religion work time. And then they're going to give presentations, which I'm not going to get a presentation from every class. I'll kind of show you how I'm going to be getting presentations from everyone. Okay, so they have two major pieces of material that they're turning in. The presentations worksheet, and then here's a rubric that will help me score how their presentation is. And again, not everyone's going to present, but I'm going to be grading their slideshow, so I might want to reword that for when I eventually do this project. I actually haven't even started this yet, so I unfortunately can't tell you how it went, but I think it should go pretty well. So here's the first one. This is the World Religions worksheet, where they have the key terms that they're going to define for themselves, and then they have some questions to help them kind of guide how they're going to be giving their presentation. So they're going to be getting a religion. I'll give them like a lot of choice, but it's essential that every religion has at least one person, so we can learn about each religion. They got to describe the brief history of their religion. They have to tell us what their religion's ultimate reality is, which I'll explain what that is. They have to explain the symbols of their religion, use 3, and then they have to finally say what the internal logic of their assigned religion is. Now, going back to here. And then I'll get into the rubric after I show you the presentation. But we'll just go straight through the agenda. Sorry, I might be doing this in a weird order. So we first define the key terms for comparing and discussing religions. So I first let them kind of try to define these terms for themselves and then compare them to the terms that I'll be using for the sake of this class. So kind of building on their prerequisite knowledge to help them understand these new definitions we're using for comparing religions. So we have this little vocab activity after they kind of discuss their own ideas about these definitions first, which you guys can make an activity out of, individual or group. But here are the 4 major words for comparing religions for this activity. Religion, it is the human activity of orientation to ultimate reality. It might sound really complex and weird, but that's like the most complicated one because you need to understand the other 3 terms to understand what religion is. So ultimate reality, it's the focal point of religion and religions. A symbol is the means by which people orient themselves to ultimate reality. Depending on the religion, a symbol can be practically anything, symbol or practice. I included symbol / practice because it can be kind of offensive if you just say symbol. So, like in the case of my example, it would be kind of offensive if you kind of use symbol and practice interchangeably. So you might just want to use practice instead. And then finally, internal logic, a system of meaning unique to a particular religion that guides the thoughts and actions of its adherents. This might sound a little bit abstract, and it probably will sound even more abstract to the students, so I'll walk you through the example of what I want the project to look like, the final project. So I decided to do Catholicism just because I'm Catholic and I didn't have to do as much research and I kind of understand the religion a lot better than the other religions. So I'll be able to like have really good resources and whatnot, and kind of show them how to present a religion. So every slideshow should have the same agenda, where they have background information on their religion, define the ultimate reality of their religion, explain some symbols and practices used in their religion, and then also some inner logic of their religion. And then they can have a lessons learned slide at the end. That was kind of more for when I was wanting us to do it as a group project, but I'm steering away from that as I speak. So, background information, that can just be like really basic things like certain religions that influenced the founding of the religion. So Judaism. I could include more like what kind of influenced Judaism as well. But then also kind of who founded it. So I said Jesus Christ and Peter the Apostle and the Pope are like some key people who created this religion and have maintained the religion. And then some guiding principles, 10 Commandments, the Beatitudes, and other things. And of course, when I'm giving the actual presentation, I'd go more in depth on explaining these topics. So like a little bit about Judaism, talk about, most people know who Jesus Christ is, Peter the Apostle, the first Pope, so the first head of the Catholic Church, and kind of what he did to help spread the religion. And then the 10 Commandments, kind of these rules that people should live by to live holy and pure lives. And the Beatitudes, something a little bit more specific to Catholicism that I talk a little bit more about. I also have the sacraments on here as well, because that's going to lead me into my next, or my slide after this one. So, ultimate reality, what's the goal of the religion? So, kind of the end point of the religion. And the end point of Catholicism and most Christianities is heaven. I kind of pulled a quote from the Catechism of the Catholic Church. So like the main teaching book kind of has all the interpretations of everything from scholars and trusted individuals in the Catholic Church and leaders of the Catholic Church. The ultimate end and fulfillment of the deepest human longings, the state of supreme and definitive happiness. So everyone in Catholicism is trying to get to heaven. That's the ultimate reality. They're all practitioners of the religion are trying to orient themselves towards this ultimate reality, which is heaven. But how do they do that? That's what I explain, and what the students will explain through the symbols / the practices of their faith. And I seriously say practices because, again, it can be kind of offensive if you use the word symbol, because a lot of times it's not symbol, it's real to these people that are practicing the religion. So the main practices of the Catholic Church, the things that you do to orient yourself towards heaven, are you follow the 7 sacraments. So baptism, you cleanse your soul of original sin. You go to do penance occasionally to heal the soul of sin committed in the practitioner's lifetime. And you partake in the Eucharist by accepting God and accepting God giving himself to you. There are multiple other ones in the presentation. I talked about each one a little bit. And finally, the inner logic of Catholicism. So this is where you tie the symbols and practices to the ultimate reality. How does following these practices get you to the ultimate reality of the religion? So in Catholicism, they believe that you prepare your soul through the 7 sacraments by believing in God. You can properly prepare and ready your soul for the journey towards heaven. They don't believe your whole body's going to heaven. They believe that your soul is the thing that transfers to this ultimate reality, heaven. And then I kind of summarize a little bit below. By conducting the 7 sacraments, practitioners orient themselves to God by purifying their souls to the state necessary to eventually enter heaven. And I have this little chart that's kind of showing like earth, purgatory, or heaven, purgatory, and hell. So that's something kind of unique to Catholicism that I could like maybe talk a little bit more about if I was giving the actual presentation. Talk about how that's a unique thing, and purgatory is a kind of an area where you prepare your soul even more towards being ready to enter heaven, because there's the internal logic that you need to have a pure soul to get to heaven. So there are multiple different places that your soul can go to after you die if your soul isn't pure enough to get into heaven. And by following the 7 sacraments, they all relate to cleansing the soul or keeping the soul free of sin, because according to the internal logic, you need to have a pure soul to get to heaven. And then the little lessons learned slide, I won't get into it, but they can talk about lessons learned. You can implement that if you want. So final supports that they have is because they're not going to be super great at doing research yet. At least what I've figured out from them so far, they're not the greatest. So I have a little source sheet. So for whatever religion they have, you can find a really good video on it, and then also a really good article on it. And of course, they can use more sources for whatever their religion is. Oh, I gotta delete this stuff. This is some notes from a meeting that I accidentally took on this. So I'll delete that stuff later. But yeah, so I have links to basically everything that they need to kind of start on their religion. And I need to update it for Christianity as well. So it's not completely done, but I wanted to get you guys this information, and I'll update it, and it'll update on the website as well. So a YouTube video, usually a YouTube video. There's like a podcast for one, like Taoism, and then a scholarly article, or as best of an article I could find that's also pretty readable for the students so that they can answer those 4 questions, which are 4 questions of, well, 1, what's your assigned religion, the brief history, the founder and whatnot, the religion's ultimate reality, the symbols of the religion, and the internal logic of the religion. So that's what they're basically doing for their presentation, and it's in slideshow format. You can make it like a chart or something like that, a graphic organizer, but I just thought slideshow was the easiest. And then for the presentations, I've broken it down into these categories so they can have like a nice comparative chart for each religion that they learn about, and they also have to provide a question for each religion to show that they're active listeners. And finally, how am I going to get people to present? I'm thinking of giving them like a little bit of like bonus points, like you get an extra point on this assignment if you volunteer to present your work. Is kind of the game plan I'm doing, but maybe you guys can think of something even better for that. Yeah. Oh, and I'll go into the rubric a little bit. This is kind of specific to my presentation, but I kind of broke it down so you can use the same rubric: brief history, ultimate reality, symbols, internal logic, and professionalism in terms of how they actually format their slides and how they do it in an effective manner. Kind of the key things that I'm looking at through the rubric. So yeah, that's the basic idea of this World Religions Project. This is probably the most complex lesson I'm sharing so far because it is the biggest, because I'm making it like the final, like most important lesson for them. So let me know if you guys have any questions, and I'd be happy to talk about my assignment with you sometime. So thanks for your time. Have a good day.